22 missed calls. That was the first thing I saw when I rolled over and checked my phone. A pale gray morning in Portland, Oregon, rain still drying on the window, and a bright little screen screaming at me in numbers. 22. For a moment, half awake, my brain did the usual thing. Work emergency? Server down? Client meltdown? Then I saw the contact name. MOM. And beneath it, the last text from the night before. The one sitting there like a bruise. We just thought it might be better without you on this one, Lauren. Less tension. Your mother needs a calm trip. I stared at those words for so long my eyes hurt. Better without you. The cruise I'd paid for, the cabins I'd chosen, the photos I'd pictured us taking, Mom in her sundress, Dad in a stupid hat, my little sister Lily laughing at something only she found funny. All of it, apparently, better without me. Last night, lying in this same bed with my chest on fire, I'd typed back 2 simple words. All right. No sarcasm. No essay. No demand for gratitude. Just. All right. They took that as surrender. They always did. What they didn't understand yet was what happens when the difficult child finally stops paying to belong. My name is Lauren Price. I'm 32, I work as a UX designer for a health tech company, and I have a boring, stable life I fought like hell to build. And for most of that life, family peace was not free. It had a price tag. Sometimes it was $60 for a last-minute cake when Mom forgot Chloe's birthday and needed a save. Sometimes it was $400 to cover Dad's unexpected car repair that mysteriously matched the amount of Chloe's new tattoo. Sometimes it was $3,000. A short-term loan to keep the house from falling behind that I later found framed in the background of their vacation photos from Maui. My parents raised me to believe 3 things. 1. Appearance is everything. 2. 3. Problems are secrets. 4. 5. Whoever makes the most money is responsible for keeping everyone else comfortable. 6. By the time I was 25, I had internalized a 4th rule no one said out loud. 1. If Lauren pays, we can all pretend nothing's wrong. 2. Mom, Margaret, liked to joke that she was old school. She loved aesthetic. Perfect holiday tables. Perfect social media posts. Perfect stories to repeat in the church foyer. The truth was less charming. She needed admiration the way some people need oxygen. Dad, Thomas, had a favorite word, harmony. He'd say it whenever Mom was about to explode. Let's keep the harmony, okay? It's not worth disturbing the harmony over this. Could you just let it go for harmony's sake? Harmony, in our house, meant don't upset your mother. It meant silence. It meant swallowing things so she could sleep. My older sister, Chloe, learned that faster than I did. She figured out something early. If you cried hard enough, or made your pain loud enough, Mom would bend the rules for you. Bad grades? She's artistic, not academic. Job hopping? She's just trying to find her passion. Another rent crisis? You know how hard it is for creative souls in this economy. She was never the villain. Always the fragile, misunderstood one. And then there was Lily. 16. Wide eyes. Nervous laugh. The kind of kid who apologizes when someone else bumps into them. I used to tuck her into bed when Mom and Dad were mid-fight downstairs, telling her stories about far-off cities and tiny apartments where no one raised their voice. Back then, I thought I'd move away and send her postcards. I didn't realize I'd end up sending money. The cruise started, like most things with my parents, as a performance. We're not big anniversary people, Mom said over Sunday lunch, already fishing. It's just 40 years. Everyone makes such a fuss these days. Chloe rolled her eyes dramatically, stabbing her salad. 40 is a big deal, Mom, she said. Other people renew their vows in Bali. Dad chuckled, sipping his iced tea. We're simple folk, he said. Just grateful to have made it this far. I watched them through the haze of that familiar manipulation. The modesty that wasn't modest at all, just bait. What would you do, I asked, if money wasn't an issue? Mom didn't hesitate. Oh, I've always thought those Mediterranean cruises looked lovely, she said, eyes gleaming. Sunsets. Live music. Those perfect little plates of food. Just peace. She said peace the way other people say miracle. Chloe looked at me over the rim of her glass. It was quick, fleeting. But I knew that look. You're the one with money. Here's your cue. That night, I sat on my couch with my laptop open, Daniel's feet in my lap, and browsed cruises until my eyes blurred. I compared cabin sizes, read reviews about food, checked accessibility for Dad's bad knee. I made a spreadsheet to compare prices. I called the cruise line to ask about meal times because Mom gets headaches if she eats too late. When I finally clicked confirm, my chest buzzed with a mix of pride and nausea. $12,000. 2 upgraded balcony cabins. Priority boarding. Drink package. Spa add-ons. A night at a seaside hotel so they wouldn't have to rush from Portland to Seattle on the same day. Travel insurance in case anyone got anxious and wanted to cancel. One big gift, I whispered to myself, staring at the confirmation email. Maybe this will reset everything. Daniel came back from the kitchen with 2 mugs of tea and sat beside me. Big purchase, he asked. Just the cruise, I said. For my parents' anniversary. And Chloe. And Lily. Flights, hotel, everything. He whistled low. That's generous, he said. I wanted him to say, that's too much. You don't have to do that. Instead, he kissed my temple and said softly. As long as you're not paying with your sanity too. I smiled, but the comment stuck. Because deep down, I knew I was. For a while, it felt like maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. Mom texted me links to cruise outfits and asked. Do you think this is too much? Spoiler, nothing is ever too much for her. Dad sent a thumbs up to the group chat whenever I shared another detail, boarding times, weather forecast, suggested packing list. Lily flooded me with messages. Do you think they'll have a smoothie bar? Can we go snorkeling? Do you think there'll be karaoke? I'm going to sing Taylor Swift if there is. Chloe posted a countdown sticker on her Instagram story and wrote. Can't believe my little sister is spoiling us like this. People reacted with heart emojis. So blessed. You're such a sweet family. Mom reposted it, adding. Grateful beyond words. I watched the story from my small apartment, wearing an old hoodie, eating reheated leftovers after working overtime, and told myself the same old story. Maybe this is the price of being the responsible one. This is just what adults do. This is what good daughters do. Still, something in me clenched every time a new expense appeared. Oh, honey, the standard cabins look a little cramped, Mom said over the phone one afternoon. Your father's back, you know. Maybe balcony cabins would be better. We could just stay at a motel near the port, I suggested. Oh, I read a terrible review about those, she replied. Dirty carpets. People screaming in the hallway. I'd never sleep. It would ruin the whole trip. So I upgraded the cabins. Booked the nicer hotel. Paid the difference. The night the payment cleared, Daniel and I went for a walk by the river. The city lights rippled on the water, beautiful and detached. Tell me one thing you're looking forward to on this cruise, he said, bumping my shoulder gently. I thought about it. Honestly? I said. Just a week where no one is in crisis. No last-minute money requests. No guilt. Just photos and laughter and maybe one genuine thank you. And what if you don't get that? He asked. I laughed a little, but it sounded thin. Then at least they'll have memories, I said. At least I'll know I tried. He stopped walking and turned to face me. You've been trying since you were 12, he said gently. At some point, it gets to be their turn. I looked away. Maybe after this, I said. Maybe this is the last big one. We both knew I'd said that before. A week before departure, the group chat went quiet. At first it was subtle. Less excitement. Fewer emojis. I sent reminders about online check-in and passport photos. Mom replied with vague, got it, messages. Dad sent. Chloe left my messages on read. Lily, usually a rapid-fire meme machine, stopped texting altogether. I tried to ignore the knot in my stomach. They're busy that they're packing that you're overthinking. But there's a sound to certain silences. A hum. A pressure. In our family, silence never meant peace. It meant plotting. 2 nights before departure, I called my dad. I had our flight details open on my laptop. I'd synced the boarding passes to their digital wallets. I had the hotel booking pulled up, the cruise confirmation, the transfer details. Hey, Dad, I said. I just wanted to run through tomorrow. The flight from Portland leaves at 9. I booked you, Mom, and Lily in row 12. Chloe's in 14C because she booked a bit later. About that, he interrupted, his voice just a little too bright. We've arranged our own shuttle. The knot in my stomach pulled tight. Shuttle? I asked. What shuttle? A pause. I could hear the TV in the background, faint, like there was an audience to this conversation. We just thought it might be better without you on this one, Lauren, he said finally. Less tension. Your mother wants a calm trip. You know how things get when you're upset. The world went very still. My laptop screen blurred. My breath suddenly had to fight to get past my ribs. Better, without me, I repeated. It's just for this trip, he rushed on. We can do something together later. Maybe a weekend away. You have your own life now, anyway. And you've already given us so much by arranging everything. By paying for everything, I said quietly. Well, he said, laugh brittle. You know how these systems work. Once the card is in, it's all complicated to change. Silence. My heartbeat was so loud I could hear it in my ears. In the living room, Daniel paused his show and muted the TV, watching me from the couch. I could have listed every expense out loud. I could have reminded him of every time I'd bailed them out, covered for them, shifted my own life to keep them comfortable. Instead, I swallowed, shifted the phone in my hand, and heard myself say, all right. It shocked even me. That calm. That finality. Really, he said, surprised. You understand, then. I do, I said. Have a good trip. I hung up. Daniel waited a few seconds before speaking. What happened? He asked, voice soft. They don't want me on the cruise, I said. Too much tension. They want a calm trip. He stared at me, disbelief sharpening his features. They're still using your booking. Your money. Apparently, I said. And you said, all right? I said, all right, I repeated. I went to the kitchen and poured myself some water. My hands shook so hard the glass rattled against the counter. That night, I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw some version of them on the ship's deck. Mom laughing, drink in hand. Dad leaning on the rail, nodding at the horizon. Chloe taking selfies. Lily pushing hair out of her eyes, looking for me in the crowd, and not finding me. My phone lit up beside me, every so often, with old messages. You're such a blessing, sweetheart. We couldn't do this without you. You always come through for the family. I turned it face down. The words had always been a lie. I just hadn't wanted to admit it. At 6:13 the next morning, I made coffee. The house was quiet. Outside, the street glistened faintly from the early rain. The sky was that pale, indecisive gray that never quite commits to sunshine. Daniel stood by the sink, arms folded, watching me. "Did they explain why?" he asked. "Just said it would be better without me," I said, stirring sugar into my mug. "Less tension. As if I'm some kind of weather system." He huffed out a dry laugh. "That's not better," he said. "That's cowardice." I didn't respond. I stared at the coffee swirling in the mug and thought, not for the first time, how many times I'd paid for them to feel brave while they treated me like a burden. By 7 a.m., my phone started buzzing. Not with apologies. With urgency. 3 missed calls. 5. 10. I let it ring. Finally, a voicemail came through. Mom's voice, clipped and high, right on the edge of hysteria. "Lauren. This is ridiculous. They won't let us board without the cardholder present. You need to call the cruise line right now and sort this out. We're standing here like idiots." I took a slow sip of coffee. "No," I murmured. "I don't." By the time I'd finished my cup, there were 22 missed calls. On the 23rd attempt, I picked up. "Lauren." Mom snapped. "This is absurd. They're saying we can't board because the booking's in your name. You need to call them and tell them you approve the charges. We're at the counter, people are staring." I pressed the speaker icon and set the phone on the table. Daniel leaned in the doorway, arms folded, face calm. "You decided it would be better without me," I said, my voice strangely steady. "You told me there was too much tension when I'm around. I respected that." "Don't be childish," she snapped. "You're humiliating us." "No," I said. "You did that yourselves. I just stopped fixing it." "You are our daughter," she hissed. "You owe us." I hung up. The silence that followed settled over the room like something solid. Something with weight. I'd spent my whole life scrambling to mop up their messes before anyone saw them. For the first time, I let the mess sit where it fell. 3 hours later, someone started pounding on my front door. Sharp. Impatient. Entitled. I stood at the top of the stairs, fingers curled around the banister, and watched their shadows move behind the frosted glass. Daniel came to stand beside me. "Do you want me to deal with it?" he asked. I shook my head. "No," I said. "I want to see it. I want to see their faces when they realize the old script doesn't work anymore." I went down, unlocked the door, and stepped back. Mom swept in first. Even after hours at the port, she still somehow smelled like perfume and hairspray. Her lipstick was smudged at one corner, though. Her hair frizzed slightly at the edges. There was a frantic shine to her eyes. Dad followed, dragging one suitcase behind him. His shoulders slumped, his expression caught between annoyance and embarrassment. "It's beyond childish, Lauren," Mom snapped. "Do you have any idea how this made us look? We were treated like criminals. They practically accused us of fraud at the desk. In front of everyone." "I think I can imagine," I said. Dad lifted his hands in his usual peacekeeper gesture. "Let's not yell," he said. "We just need to talk this out calmly." There it was. The old phrase. The one they always used when what they meant was, "We'll talk. You'll fold. And we'll pretend this was a mutual decision." Daniel appeared at the bottom of the stairs, barefoot in an old t-shirt and joggers. He didn't look imposing. He looked grounded. "Ever since you started dating him, you've changed," Mom spat, turning her attention to him like a spotlight finding a new victim. "You've become cold. Distant. Calculating. This isn't you." Daniel didn't flinch. "Leave," he said quietly. Mom blinked. "What did you say?" "Leave," he repeated, voice low but steady. "You came into her home yelling and accusing her. You used her card to plan a trip and then told her she wasn't welcome. You don't get to do that and then demand she save you from the consequences. So, you need to leave. For a moment, even Mom couldn't find words. Her mouth opened. Closed. The red smear of lipstick quivered at the edge. You will regret this, she hissed finally. You are turning your back on your own family. No, I said. I'm turning my back on being your credit line. Dad reached out, like he could still grab the old version of me. Lauren, sweetheart, we're just upset, he began. If you could just call the cruise line and explain. I did nothing wrong, I said. You disinvited me from a trip I paid for. The fact that it blew up in your faces, that's on you. They stared at me like I'd started speaking another language. Maybe I had. The language of boundaries is always foreign to people who've never heard no from you before. Mom muttered something under her breath, turned sharply, and stalked out. Dad followed, pulling the suitcase over the threshold. The door closed. The echo of it rolled through the house. I waited for the usual tidal wave of guilt to hit me. For the second thoughts. The urge to run after them, apologize, offer to call the cruise line and smooth everything over. Instead, there was just a huge, exhausted quiet. Something had snapped. And for once, I wasn't scrambling to tape it back together. They went silent for 3 days. No calls. No texts. No guilt-laced paragraphs about what you've done to this family. I went to work. I made coffee. I answered emails. I went to the gym and watched myself in the mirror as I moved, strangely aware, for the first time, of how much tension I carried in my shoulders. In the evenings, Daniel cooked simple meals. We ate on the couch, legs touching, TV murmuring in the background. Sometimes he'd reach over and pause whatever we were watching and say, "How's the noise in your head today?" Some days, the truth was ugly. I keep expecting them to show up, I'd say. Or for Chloe to send me one of those 10-paragraph texts where she both insults me and calls me sis like it's a compliment. Or for Dad to call and say, "Okay, fun's over, you've made your point." And if they do, he'd ask. I'd take a deep breath. "I don't know," I'd say. "But I don't want to keep being who I was before." On the 4th morning, my phone started buzzing again. 22 missed calls. Same pattern. Same number. On the 23rd ring, I answered. "Lauren," Mom said, voice already high with panic. "They won't let us board. They've transferred the booking to a later cruise, but they're saying the cardholder has to authorize it and be present at check-in. You need to fix this. It's gone too far." I watched rain run down the window. "That's strange," I said. "Because you told me it would be better without me." She made a noise half between a sob and a scoff. "You are making us look ridiculous," she said. "People at church are asking why we didn't go. We've told them there was a mix-up, but if you don't fix this." "No, Mom," I said softly. "You made yourselves look ridiculous." I just stepped out of the frame. I hung up. Daniel raised his eyebrows from the doorway. "How did that feel?" he asked. I thought about it. "Like taking my hand off a hot stove," I said. "It's still burning, but at least I'm not pressing into the heat anymore." A week passed. Then came that summons. A text from Dad. "Dinner. Just you. We need to talk. Friday at 7. No apology. No, we miss you. Just scheduling." I stared at it for a long time. In the end, I replied. "I'll come for dinner. 1 hour." When Friday came, Daniel drove me to my parents' house. He pulled up across the street and parked beneath a lamppost. "I'll wait here," he said. "Read, listen to a podcast, whatever. Take your time. Take exactly as much time as you want, and not a minute more." "You don't have to wait," I said. "I know," he replied. That's why it means something that I will. Their house looked the same as always. Dark wood door. Seasonal wreath. Perfectly swept porch. Lights on in the front room. It was like walking onto a set I'd left years ago and suddenly been recast in. Inside, the dining table was laid with the good plates. The ones Mom claimed were only for special occasions, even though she'd use them whenever anyone she wanted to impress came over. Napkins folded. Silverware polished. The bottle of wine I'd given them last Christmas uncorked and breathing on the sideboard. Chloe hovered by the counter, scrolling her phone, wearing an expression like she was at a wake. Lily sat at the far end of the table, shoulders hunched, eyes on her lap. Mom floated in from the kitchen, all bright smiles and brittle energy. There she is, she said, voice just a little too loud. Our career woman. Dad took his seat at the head of the table, folding his hands like a judge about to open a hearing. Let's eat first, he said. No point letting the food get cold. We went through the motions. Passing dishes. Making small talk about weather and traffic and the neighbor's new dog. Every clatter of fork against plate felt too loud. After a few forkfuls of roast chicken I couldn't taste, Dad leaned back in his chair. That little shift, the signal that the script was about to change. It's a shame the cruise didn't work out, he said lightly, like the universe had canceled their plans. Your mother was really looking forward to it. Were you? I asked, looking at Mom. Her smile tightened. We all were, she said. As a family. Together. That's what makes what happened so disappointing. Is it? I asked, keeping my voice calm. Because from where I'm standing, what happened was this: I paid for something, you decided I wasn't welcome, and then you expected my money to show up without me. Chloe made an exasperated noise. God, you're still making this about money, she said. It was about the vibe. You're always so tense, Lauren. You'd find a way to be miserable on a yacht. Chloe, Dad said warningly. Lily's fork trembled in her hand. We wanted to talk about the future, Dad continued. Dwelling in the past doesn't help anyone. Your mother and I still believe the family could use some time away together. A reset. A chance to heal. Mom reached down beside her chair and pulled up a glossy pamphlet. A resort in Sedona, she said, sliding it across the table toward me. Desert Ridge Villas. 5 nights. Spa. Infinity pool. Yoga, hiking, the works. A chance to reconnect without all the drama. There were smiling families on the cover. Sunset. Wine glasses. All the clichés. If we all split it, Mom added, it will be easier for you. There it was. The hook wrapped in fairness. Who's paying? I asked. Dad chuckled. Well, you'd handle the booking, he said. You're so good with technology. Chloe and Lily don't have the head for these things. And your mother gets overwhelmed by all the options online. You're just better at logistics, Chloe added, shrugging. And you make more than the rest of us. It just makes sense. Lily looked up at me, eyes wide. They won't stop, she whispered, barely audible. It hit me like a physical shove. Mom snapped her head toward her. Lily, she said sharply. Enough. I folded the pamphlet closed and set it back in the center of the table. I'll think about it, I said. Mom opened her mouth. I repeated, more firmly, I'll think about it. I stood. 1 hour, I said to Dad. That's what I agreed to. I'm leaving now. I walked out. My heart hammered all the way down the path, but my steps didn't falter. When I opened the door of Daniel's car and slid in, he didn't pepper me with questions. He just put the car in gear and drove. The silence between us felt like a blanket, not a weapon. The next day, a white gift bag appeared on my doorstep. Satin ribbon. Gold foil. For a second, my stomach clenched. Flowers, I thought. Or some sentimental trinket designed to say, "See, we do love you. You're overreacting." I brought it inside and set it on the coffee table. Daniel came out of the kitchen with a dish towel in his hands. "From them?" he asked. "Probably," I said. "Well," he said, "do we open the peace offering, or do we call it what it is?" "What is it?" I asked. "Packaging around manipulation," he said. I blew out a breathy laugh despite myself. "Let's open it," I said. "I want to know what story they're trying to sell now." Inside the bag was a crisp envelope. In the envelope, a folded brochure for Desert Ridge Villas, and a printed reservation confirmation. My name at the top. Guest, Lauren Price, additional guest. Check-in date, this weekend. Length, 5 nights. I flipped to the bottom of the page. Payment information. Card ending in 4421. My card. The same one I'd used to book the cruise. The same one my browser had saved. The same one I'd told myself I'd remove from autofill and never had the energy to. The confirmation was stamped non-refundable, in all caps. My lungs forgot how to work for a moment. "Talk to me," Daniel said quietly from the doorway. "They booked the Sedona resort," I said. "Under my name. With my card. Non-refundable." He frowned. "Did you give them your card?" he asked. "I gave it to the cruise line," I said. "They must have used the stored info or called and pretended to be me. Or maybe they had a photo from when I sent them proof once, I don't know." He took the paper from my hands slowly, scanning it. "That's not just inconsiderate, Lauren," he said. "That's fraud." I sank onto the couch, the paper crackling in my fingers. "It's also very on brand," I said hoarsely. "They told me they'd think about Sedona. Instead, they just decided for me." "What do you want to do?" he asked. The question sat between us. Not what should you do, not what would a good daughter do. What do you want to do? I looked at the dates again. Check-in, Friday. My name on every line. "They expect me to cancel," I said slowly. "To pay the penalty. To swallow the cost. To call it a misunderstanding and move on. That's the script. That's always been the script." "And if you don't?" he asked. I stared at the confirmation. "If I don't," I said, "they show up in Sedona and find strangers in their room. Or they call the resort and find out the booking is still active and in my name. And maybe, for once, the consequences of their choices land where they belong." Daniel nodded. "Then don't cancel," he said. It was so simple. So shockingly simple. I opened my laptop, logged into my bank. The amount stung, but it didn't break me. I'd known worse months. I'd survived tighter times. I worked. I had savings. I would be fine. And for the first time in my life, I was about to spend a lot of money on something my parents didn't approve of. My own peace. We packed light. Swimsuits. Shorts. A couple of dresses. Sunscreen. 2 paperback novels I'd been promising myself I'd read when I have time. At the airport, I kept expecting my phone to buzz with some last-minute interception. Mom demanding I cancel. Dad offering a compromise. The messages came, but they weren't what I expected. "Assuming you cancel that ridiculous Sedona booking. Can't afford another fiasco. Mom. You know your mother's under a lot of stress right now. It would be helpful if you didn't stir things. Dad." I put my phone on airplane mode. The flight was short. Landing in Arizona felt like walking into a different planet. Dry heat. An open sky that went on forever. The smell of dust and sun-baked stone. The resort lobby was all glass and light. Stone floors. Water features. Soft music. A woman at the front desk smiled at us as we approached. "Welcome to Desert Ridge Villas," she said. Name? Lauren Price, I replied. Her fingers danced across the keyboard, then she lit up. 5-night stay in a Canyon View suite, she said. You're our primary guest. We're so glad you're here. Primary guest. Not problem. Not burden. Not source of tension. Guest. She handed me 2 key cards, a map, some vouchers for spa access, and a little packet with hiking recommendations. Check-in took 10 minutes. 10 minutes to reroute a story I'd been living in for 32 years. The suite was bigger than our entire apartment in Portland. High ceilings. White walls. Dark wood. A bed that looked like a cloud. Linen curtains that moved in the faint breeze from the balcony door. Outside, red rock formations rose like sleeping giants. There was a private plunge pool on the terrace, just big enough for 2 people to float in and forget what day it was. This is nicer than the photos, Daniel said, dropping our bags inside. It should be, I said. Apparently I was paying for 6 hypothetical family members as well as myself. He laughed and wrapped his arms around my waist, pressing his chin to my shoulder. Correction, he said. You're paying for 1 woman who has done more than enough, and 1 guy who really lucked out. We spent the first day doing almost nothing. We swam. We sat on the terrace and watched the sky change colors. We let the desert heat soak into our bones. Every few hours, my brain would jolt, you should check your phone. You should see what's happening. What if they're telling lies about you? What if they're in trouble? I would take a breath, look at the plunge pool, look at the rocks, look at Daniel's hand resting on my leg, and remind myself. Whatever explosion is happening back there, you didn't light the fuse. On the second day, we hiked a small trail that wound up behind the resort. The air smelled like hot dust and sage. Lizards darted between rocks. The sky was an uninterrupted blue so pure it almost hurt to look at too long. Do you feel guilty? Daniel asked at one point, as we stopped to drink water in the shade of a twisted tree. Yes, I said honestly. And also, I feel relief. Like I'm standing outside a house that's been burning for years, and for once, I'm not the one running in with a bucket. Here's the thing about fire, he said. Sometimes it clears space for new growth. Are you calling my childhood a controlled burn? I asked. He smirked. More like an illegal bonfire, he said. But sure. That night, we ate dinner on the terrace, simple pasta, salad, a bottle of wine from the minibar we'd normally never touch because it's a waste of money. Halfway through my second glass, I felt something loosen in my chest. It took me a moment to realize what it was. Fear. Not completely gone. Not cured. But, quieter. On the 3rd morning, I turned my phone back on. It was like opening a floodgate. Messages poured in. Voicemails. Texts. Missed calls. Group chat notifications. The first text that loaded was from Mom. Did you seriously take the Sedona trip? The resort says the room is occupied. You need to fix this. You've humiliated us again. Then. Dad, Lauren, we've just called the resort. They said you checked in. Surely this is a misunderstanding. Please call us. Chloe, wow. You are unreal. We get one thing nice planned after all your drama and you have to steal it. You love playing the victim, don't you? I scrolled. There were voicemails too. I put my earbuds in and walked out to the balcony, letting the desert air hit my face while I listened. Mom's voice, sharp as broken glass. You are selfish beyond belief. Do you know what you've done to our reputation? You are making your own parents look like fools. People saw us at the travel agency. They know something's wrong. This is not how we raised you. Dad's voice, soft and heavy. Your mother is very upset. This has gone too far. We never intended for things to blow up like this. Call us. Let's talk it out. Chloe's voice, outraged, performative. They won't let them check in. They said the booking is under your name and non-transferable. This is low, even for you. You've always been dramatic, but this is just nasty. I felt my jaw clench. Even now, they were more concerned with the story they could tell about it than with what they'd actually done. I opened a new voicemail. Mom, I said when the beep sounded. You stole from me. You used my card without my consent. Twice. I looked around at the terrace, the view, the sun warming my skin. This is me refusing to pay for my own humiliation. I hung up. Daniel stepped out onto the balcony. How's the circus? He asked. Exactly as you'd expect, I said. They're outraged that actions have consequences. He nodded. Do you want to explain yourself? He asked. No, I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. I think I finally understand that explaining myself was their favorite way of keeping me stuck. I'm done. By afternoon, the story had spilled onto social media. My cousin Sophie posted a photo from a barbecue at Mom and Dad's house. People laughing. A caption. Family first. No drama, just love. I would have scrolled past it once. This time, I checked the comments. Where's Lauren? Someone from church asked. A minute later, Mom replied. She chose not to come. We don't know why. She's been acting strange lately, pray for her. I almost laughed. The dramatic ellipsis. The request for prayer. Classic Margaret. My phone buzzed with a new message. Lily, they're lying. I'm so sorry. She attached a photo, the original cruise invoice on our kitchen table. My name circled as payer. Line items highlighted. Mom's handwriting in the margin, thank you, sweetie. Another text from her came in. Do you still have proof for Sedona? Statements, screenshots. Aunt Karen is asking questions. I stared at the screen. Me, yes. I have everything. Lily, will you send it to her? I don't want them to twist this. Something inside me that had been small and folded for years straightened up. Me, I'll send it. But you don't have to be in the middle. Protect yourself. Lily, too late for that. Love you. I forwarded the Sedona confirmation to Aunt Karen. Then my bank statements showing the charges. Then screenshots of the messages about splitting the cost. The replies came fast. Oh, honey. I had no idea. This isn't right. They told us a very different story. I didn't write paragraphs. I didn't call anyone names. I just sent facts. By evening, the family group chat lit up like it was Christmas. Dozens of messages. Some defensive. Some confused. Some trying to take the middle ground. I'm sure there's more to the story. I muted the chat and set the phone down. The rocks across from our balcony glowed gold in the setting sun. Daniel poured sparkling water into 2 glasses. You know, he said, clinking his glass lightly against mine, you are allowed to let the truth do the talking for once. I am, I said. And I think I just did. The next morning, a blocked number called 3 times. On the 3rd attempt, I answered. Hello? Lauren, Dad said, voice measured. We didn't think it would go this far. There it is, I said, leaning back in the balcony chair. That phrase. The one that really means, we didn't think we'd actually have to face the consequences. Your mother is very upset, he said. She feels betrayed. We never meant to hurt you. You told me it would be better without me, I said. You booked a trip with my card, disinvited me, and then did it again. What part of that did you imagine I wouldn't find hurtful? That's not how we see it, he said. I know, I replied. That's the problem. He paused. We're sorry if things were misinterpreted, he said finally. I almost smiled. Dad, I said, that's not an apology. That's you saying you're sorry. I noticed. He stayed silent. I hope you get to a place where you can actually be sorry for what you did, I continued. But whether you ever do or not, I'm done paying for your comfort. Don't throw away your family over money, he said quietly. I looked out at the sky. I'm not throwing anything away, I said. You did that a long time ago. I'm just finally putting down the bill. I hung up. For the first time in my life, I ended a conversation with my father on my own terms. By noon, an envelope slid under the door of our suite. Same thick card stock. Same gold edges. My mother's handwriting on the front. I opened it. We didn't mean for things to go this far, that we just wanted to feel appreciated after everything we've done for this family. Sorry if we crossed a line. Love, Mom and Dad. No mention of money. No mention of the cruise. No mention of Sedona. Just a request to forget, forgive, and move on, so we could reset the old hierarchy. I set the card on the table and looked at it for a long time. Then I put on my swimsuit and went down to the pool. The water was cool and blue and utterly indifferent to my family drama. It didn't care who had been the scapegoat or the golden child. It just held me up when I let go. When we flew home 2 days later, Portland felt different. The same damp chill in the air. The same gray clouds. The same traffic. But my apartment felt like ours in a way it never had before. No ghost of their expectations hovering in the corners. No phantom obligation sitting in my inbox. We unpacked slowly. Put laundry on. Ordered takeout. Put on an old record that crackled and popped. I opened my banking app. The Sedona charge glared at me. It hurt. But so had thousands of other charges. The difference was, this one had bought me something real. No pretending. No performing. Just time. Space. Sunday. A quiet reintroduction to myself. By the end of the week, the online storm had calmed. Mom stopped posting photos for a while. Then returned, cautious, with pictures of flowers and Bible verses about forgiveness with no context. Dad went quiet entirely. Aunt Karen sent one last text. You deserve better than to be treated like an ATM. I told them so. Whatever you decide from here, I'm in your corner. And Lily messaged me every day. Little things. Photos of her homework. Screenshots of college websites. A picture of the sky above her bus stop with the caption. Looks kind of like Arizona light, doesn't it? Then, one evening in October, she called. They told me to block you, she said without hello. My heart clenched. Who? I asked, though I didn't need to. Mom and Dad, she said. They said you've been poisoning the family against them, and that if I'm loyal, I'll cut contact. I closed my eyes. And what did you say? I asked. She took a breath that crackled through the speaker. I said no, she said. I said you're the only one who's ever told me the truth, even when it sucked. I said if this is what loyalty looks like to them, I'm not interested. I sat down at the kitchen table, my knees suddenly weak. Lily, I said. Are you safe? There was a rustle. A door closing. I'm okay, she said. I'm at my friend's house. We're studying. They can yell all they want, but I've got 1 more year and then I'm out. Anne, if it's okay. I want to spend Christmas with you and Daniel. My throat closed up. It's more than okay, I whispered. It's home. She sniffled softly. Mom says you've turned your back on family, she said. But from where I'm standing, you're the only one turning toward it. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet kitchen for a long time. Then I opened the folder on my phone labeled Evidence. Cruise invoice. Sedona booking. Statements. Screenshots. For months, those images had been my shield. My proof. My armor. I created a new folder. Named it Freedom. Into it, I dragged photos I'd taken in Sedona. The edge of the plunge pool with my toes just in frame. Daniel's profile against a sunset sky. My hand resting on a page of the novel I'd finally finished. The view from the plane window, clouds beneath us like a second ocean. Receipts are one kind of proof. But peace is another. 3 months passed. No urgent calls. No sudden financial emergencies. No invitations with invisible price tags attached. My days settled into a rhythm I didn't know I'd been missing. Wake up. Make coffee. Sit in the window seat while the city stretched itself awake outside. Go to work. Come home. Cook. Rest. Sometimes, I'd catch myself waiting for something to break. A shoe to drop. A text to arrive. A crisis to demand my money and my energy. When nothing did, my body slowly started to believe we were safe. In February, Lily came to stay for 2 weeks during her school break. She arrived with an overstuffed backpack, a duffel bag, and a look in her eyes that made me want to both hug her and punch a wall. They think I'm at a college prep camp, she said, stepping inside. I told them there was a last-minute opening and it would look good on applications. Is that a lie? I asked. She dropped her bag and grinned weakly. I mean, it's prep, she said. Just, not the kind they think. We spent the first few days doing little things that looked like nothing from the outside. Grocery shopping at a normal pace. Not rushed, not frantic, not with someone sighing about the cost of everything. Painting the living room a warmer color. Getting more paint on ourselves and the tarp than the walls. Watching terrible reality TV and pausing it every 5 minutes to say, okay, but that's exactly how mom acts when. Eating dinner at the table, phones away, no one making jabs disguised as jokes. One night, we sat on the couch under a shared blanket, the TV muted. Do you think mom really believes she's right? Lily asked suddenly. I took a breath. I think mom believes whatever lets her sleep at night, I said. And she uses other people's guilt to cover anything that might keep her awake. Lily stared at her hands. I used to think a family meant forgiving anything, she said. That you just took whatever they did because blood is blood and all that. Now I think it means not letting them keep hurting you just because they did it early and often. That's a pretty big realization for 16, I said softly. She shrugged. Trauma ages you up, I guess, she said. You and Daniel, you feel like what family is supposed to be. Something hot stung behind my eyes. You know what's wild? I said. I spent years trying to buy my way into that feeling. Turns out, I could have started by just buying groceries for myself and saying no. We laughed. A little broken. A little healed. When she left for her first campus tour, she hugged me so tight my ribs hurt. Thank you, she whispered, for showing me what peace looks like. After her flight, I sat in the car in the airport parking lot and cried. Not like a person who'd lost something. Like a person who'd finally put something down. By spring, the whispers had stopped. Mom posted less. When she did, the comments were thinner. A few old friends. A handful of heart emojis. Every once in a while, a stray comment would appear under an old photo. Miss seeing family pics. How's everyone? She never tagged me in anything anymore. Dad seemed to withdraw into his job, then into his hobbies. Fishing photos. A new grill. Safe, quiet things that didn't involve anyone saying credit card or cruise. At work, something shifted too. I stopped automatically volunteering for every extra task. I stopped staying late just because no one else wanted to. I stopped acting like my worth lived in the amount I could give. One Friday, when my manager asked if someone could cover a last-minute weekend presentation, I opened my mouth to say, I can, out of reflex. Then I closed it. I have plans, I said. I hope someone else can cover it. He nodded and moved on without drama. And nothing collapsed. It was such a small moment. But walking home that night, carrying a grocery bag and feeling the cool air on my face, I realized something simple and enormous. I wasn't just setting boundaries with my parents. I was learning to live them everywhere. These days, once a month, on a Wednesday evening, Daniel and I head to the local library with a box of stale cookies and a stack of printed worksheets. We put up a handwritten sign on the door of the meeting room. Boundaries and balance, community group. All welcome. Free. It started as a joke. You should teach a class, Daniel had said one night after I walked him through the difference between I feel and you always. No one would come, I'd replied. We'll bribe them with snacks, he said. The first session, 3 people showed up. A nurse who kept covering shifts for a coworker who forgot to show up. A man in his 50s whose adult son kept crashing his car and expecting him to pay for repairs. A woman my age whose parents still had a key to her apartment and used it like it was a drop-in center. We sat in a circle under harsh fluorescent lights and told stories. They told me mine made them feel a little less crazy. I told them theirs made me feel a little less alone. The group grew. Now, 10, sometimes 15 people show up. We talk about scripts we were handed, roles we were assigned, the way money gets used as both weapon and apology. We don't fix anyone's life in 90 minutes. But we do something that's rarer than it should be. We listen without demanding they minimize, justify, or rewrite. After everyone leaves and the chairs are stacked, I sometimes sit by the window in the empty room and watch the parking lot lights flicker on. I think about that Arizona sky. How wide it was, how ordinary the air felt in my lungs when I finally breathed without waiting for the next accusation. Freedom isn't fireworks. It's making coffee in your own kitchen without checking your balance to see if someone else has drained it. It's saying no and not constructing a 12-point argument to defend it. It's letting grown adults feel the consequences of their own choices, even when they share your last name. So when people ask me now, do you miss your parents? I tell them the truth. I miss the idea of them, I say. The version I kept paying for. Not the reality that kept taking. Because the real loss was never the cruise. Or the resort. Or the thousands of dollars quietly siphoned off over the years. The real loss was the time I spent believing love was something you earned by suffering, paying, and staying quiet. Now, when I think about that morning, 22 missed calls, a text saying it would be better without me, and a cruise ship refusing to board the people who tried to erase me, I don't feel victorious. I feel clear. My silence that day wasn't weakness. It was a boundary finally holding. So if you've been the one holding your family together while they chip away at you, if you've been paying for peace with your own sleep, your own savings, your own self-respect, tell me your story. Because maybe your silence has power, too. Maybe the day you stop paying for a seat at a table that keeps wounding you, is the day you finally sit down at your own. And maybe, just maybe, that's where real family starts.